Hey, Soul Survivors. I'm Cynthia Schiller. Imagine falling in love with the person who is slowly stealing your sense of self and then feeling this desperate, chemically fueled need to go back to them the moment they pull away. That's not romance, that's a trauma bond, and it hijacks your brain. We're going to get into the science of it the same way addiction does. So, trauma bonding, what is it? Deep, often invisible tie that forms between a victim and an abuser. It's not about love, it's an attachment and grows out of cycles of cruelty and kindness, fear and relief, punishment and reward. To really understand why it's so hard to walk away, we have to look under the hood to the chemistry and the wiring of the brain. So, we're going to start with the reward system. This is when the abuser alternates warmth and cruelty, the lavish praise, the love bombing, followed by neglect, criticism, or even rage. And your brain learns to expect reward after pain. And this pattern is intermittent reinforcement. And it is the most powerful conditioning schedule that there is. Psychologists have shown, and we've all seen it, that unpredictable rewards keep behavior locked in. People keep trying, hoping, craving, just for that next good moment. Biologically, those good moments, they spike dopamine, the same neurotransmitter that reinforces addictive behaviors. That's why you feel like you're addicted to someone. You get a hit of relief and pleasure when the abuser is nice, and your brain files that as a reward worth pursuing. Now, next we have the oxytocin. This is the bonding hormone. Oxytocin helps glue relationships together during positive intimacy. Abusers use moments of connection, physical affection, apologies, I'll change type promises, and that release gives oxytocin in the victim. Now, oxytocin doesn't just check the moral quality of the relationship, it promotes closeness. So even when logic screams for us to run, our body chemistry keeps whispering for us to stay. Then there's the stress system. You got your cortisol and your adrenaline. Abuse creates chronic stress. Each attack, threat, and dramatic outburst activates the sympathetic nervous system. Adrenaline flows through you, cortisol rises, and you feel this panic, possibly hypervigilance, and shame. But when the storm subsides and the abuser offers calm or reconciliation, your parasympathetic system relaxes and you feel this enormous relief. Now, that relief itself becomes rewarding. Over time, your brain pairs the abuser with relief from the intolerable stress that you've been going through. So, the person who causes your terror also becomes a person who soothes it. That's why a lot of times we are like connected or reaching out to them or trying so hard. And that paradox is what causes that intense bond. Now, on the brain wiring level, repeated stress and emotional trauma, they change your neural circuits. And the amygdala, this is your fear and threat detector. The narcissist, their amygdala is different, but ours becomes hyper responsive. It's on constant alert, primed to detect anger or danger. And the prefrontal cortex, this part up here, it's responsible for decision making, impulse control, and long term planning, and it can become blunted under chronic stress. That means reasoning, weighing pros and cons, and exercising willpower become much harder when you're in a trauma bond. Memory encoding in the hippocampus can be disrupted too. And this will cause fragmented or patchy recall of events. Victims often describe foggy memory or doubt. They start to doubt whatever actually happened to them. All of this makes it incredibly difficult to form a coherent narrative that would justify the leaving. So psychologically, trauma bonds rely on several overlapping dynamics. There's the intermittent reinforcement, which is the reward punishment cycle, gaslighting, which erodes your reality testing, isolation, cutting you off from corrective feedback and social support, and also identity erosion, the slow stripping away of who you are, your boundaries, and even your preferences. You start to only do what the narcissist wants you to do. Attachment theory helps explain why some people are especially vulnerable, Those with insecure attachment histories may be primed to seek closeness even when it's unsafe. They'll also tolerate abuse because uncertainty, it feels preferable to abandonment. That's why a lot of times, like borderlines, they might have a fear of abandonment, so they stick with the narcissist. Narcissists are particularly skilled at creating trauma bonds because they alternate extremes, a lot of times very deliberately, that idealize you, making you feel uniquely chosen and adored, which inflates your sense of reward and self-worth. Then they devalue you, often in cruel and even confusing ways. They have this swing that creates intense emotional whiplash. You're on a biochemical roller coaster that makes you feel the highs, where you're ecstatic, and the lows where you feel like it's unbearable. The more unbearable the low, the more you crave the high. The more ecstatic the high, the more you'll endure the low. It's the exact pattern that keeps people tethered for months, years, or decades. There's also social and moral pressure, right, that we have to think about. You have the shame, even self-blame. Abusers start to sow doubt. You made me do this. If you loved me, you would. And victims often internalize responsibility. Shame shuts down seeking help. I do one-on-ones, or I also have a school community if you'd like to join that. But combined with biochemical cravings and cognitive narrowing, shame becomes another adhesive that keeps the victims locked in. So what trauma bonding does to the person is profound. It changes how they value themselves, how they perceive danger, how they process reward and punishment. Victims often describe feeling addicted to the relationship. They crave the abuser's approval. They tolerate humiliation, and they return again and again despite clear evidence of harm. That addiction-like pattern is driven by the same dopamine learning circuits that underlie substance dependence. So why leaving is so hard? It's because leaving requires the prefrontal cortex to override deeply encoded reward-seeking and threat relief patterns. Exactly the thing that chronic stress blunts. It requires external support to reframe reality. So it's good to have reconnection with friends, go to therapy, or do one-on-ones. And it often needs a safe exit plan to remove physiological type of triggers. So without safety and regulation, attempts to leave can trigger withdrawal-like symptoms, panic, insomnia, where you don't sleep, depression, intrusive memories, all these thoughts popping in, like you can't control your thoughts, and intense craving of the narcissist. So what actually helps us rewire our brain and to break this trauma bond? We have to think about safety first. Physical safety and emotional distance reduce cortisol spikes, and it gives the nervous system a chance to downregulate. Without safety, healing stalls. You'll be stuck in that. So you do have to have a safe exit plan because that's the most dangerous time. So just be aware of that. You can call the police department for them to help monitor if you're moving out or have some friends with you. Re-regulation practices, trauma-informed therapy, teach skills to calm the nervous system. You can do breath work, grounding, progressive exposure, or sometimes EMDR or somatic therapies. These lower amygdala reactivity and help the prefrontal cortex re-engage. So replacing the reward system, healthy, predictable sources of reward, trustworthy friendships, meaningful activities, stable routines begin to override the intermittent reinforcement loop. And over time, dopamine signaling can start to recalibrate toward consistent safety and connection. Now, cognitive reframing and truth telling, therapy that restores accurate memory and helps the victim build a coherent narrative that repairs the hippocampus, prefrontal circuit, and diminishes gaslighting, the psychological hold it has on you. Rebuilding identity and boundaries, strengthening a sense of self and clear boundaries restores internal governance, making it easier to resist this manipulation. Community and accountability. Social support isn't optional. We're social beings. It's a biological medicine. Corrective relationships help reteach the brain what healthy attachment feels like. And you'll notice once you get into healthy relationships, you're going to look back and you're going to see just how toxic it was with the narcissist. So, one final piece of deep insight: the narcissistic power isn't just about charm or even dominance. It's about control of the victim's internal economy, their reward system, their sense of worth, their reality testing. Narcissists weaponize attachment chemistry. They intentionally trigger oxytocin and dopamine with moments of approval, then they weaponize fear or shame to make the victim chase this reward. That combination is what makes them devastatingly effective and why recovery requires more than willpower. It's where we need to rewire our brains. It's neurological, psychological, and social repair that we need. So if you're watching this and feel that pull, tired, confused, replaying moments that don't make sense, know that your brain is responding exactly as brains do to this traumatic type of pattern. That response is not a moral failing, it's biology and conditioning. Healing is possible because our brains have that neuroplasticity. So, with safety, support, and steady work, these toxic circuits they become weakened and new healthier pathways are formed. So if this resonated with you, tell me in the comments what one moment made you doubt your reality. Sharing could help somebody else realize that they're not alone. So like I said, topic requests are welcome. I do offer one-on-ones if you sign up to my school network. It's in link in bio where you can get a free one-on-one and we can talk about health and healing one day at a time. We'll get through this, guys.